God bless you, my child.
Please take this.
Thank you. This means a lot.
You're welcome.
A poor black African girl named Amara gave her last transport money to a beggar. But she didn't know that that single act of kindness would unlock a destiny bigger than her dreams. Before we continue, please like this video and subscribe to this channel. The morning sun had not fully risen, yet Amara was already awake. She sat on the edge of the small mattress in their one-room apartment, watching her mother breathe. The room was quiet except for the soft sound of a ceiling fan that barely worked and the occasional cough that shook her mother's fragile body. Each breath her mother took was slow, strained, like a tired song struggling to finish its last verse. "Mama, please hold on," Amara whispered, her voice barely louder than the morning air. Her mother opened her eyes weakly and forced a smile, the kind of smile that tried to hide pain. "My daughter, you will get that job today," she said softly, as if speaking it into existence. Amara nodded, even though her chest was heavy with fear. She wanted to believe it so badly, but life had taught her not to get too comfortable with hope. Last night, the landlord had stood outside their door shouting like thunder. 2 weeks. If you don't pay, I'm locking this place. I'm not running a charity house." Amara remembered how her knees had touched the floor immediately. She begged him until her throat was sore. She promised, she cried, she even held his legs for a second until shame forced her to let go. The man didn't care. He only spat. "I don't want stories. I want my money." And now, in the early silence of morning, that threat still echoed inside Amara's head like a drumbeat. 2 weeks. That was all they had. Now she had only one chance left, one door that could save them from hunger, homelessness, and watching her mother suffer without help. A house help job interview at the mansion of a billionaire named Damien. Amara stood up and wore her cleanest gown, simple, faded and old, but neatly washed the night before. She tied her hair back carefully, then opened her small brown envelope and checked the contents one last time. Her CV, small passport photo, and a recommendation letter from a kind churchwoman who once told her, "Your honesty is your greatest qualification." Amara placed everything back neatly, as if careful arrangement could also arrange her destiny. Before leaving, she walked back to her mother and touched her forehead gently. "If I get this job, we'll pay rent, Mama," she promised. "We'll buy your drugs. I'll even save for your hospital test. I won't let you suffer like this again." Her mother's eyes shone with tears, and her voice trembled. "I pray God crowns you today," she whispered. "May the road favor you, my daughter." Amara swallowed the lump in her throat and stepped outside. The street was already awake. The road was busy, noisy, and dusty, like Lagos was already running a marathon without her. Hawkers were shouting. Bikes were speeding past. The smell of fried akara mixed with smoke from passing buses. Everywhere looked like struggle, but Amara still held her hope tightly. She hurried to the bus stop, checking her purse again. Only one note remained. Her last transport money. Amara stared at it for a moment, then took a deep breath. "God, please let this be enough," she whispered. And that was when she saw him. An old beggar sitting under a tree at the edge of the road. Thin, shaking, with tired eyes and a face that carried suffering like a permanent shadow. His clothes were worn out. His sandals looked like they had survived too many seasons. And his hands trembled so much it looked like he was fighting cold in a city full of heat. He raised his head slowly, his voice weak like dry leaves. "My child. Please, do you have any food? Any money? I haven't eaten since yesterday." Amara stopped. Her heart squeezed like someone had grabbed it tightly. For a moment, she looked away quickly, pretending she didn't hear. Not because she was cruel, but because she was scared. She told herself, "Amara, focus. You can't miss this interview. Your mother's life depends on it." She took 2 steps forward, then stopped again. Her spirit refused to be selfish. Her feet felt heavy, as if the ground itself was begging her to turn back. Amara slowly opened her purse again, hoping maybe, just maybe, There would be another note hiding somewhere, or a forgotten coin, or anything that could solve this problem. Nothing. Only the transport note. She looked up again and saw the old man shaking hands. She saw how his lips were dry. She saw how his body looked weak and forgotten, like the world had erased him from its list of important people. Something broke inside her. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just softly, like a thread snapping in the heart. Amara walked back and placed the note in his palm. "Papa, take it," she said. The old man's eyes widened, shock spreading across his face like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. "No, my child, you need it," he insisted, trying to push it back. But Amara held his hand gently and smiled, her voice soft but strong. "Papa, hunger is painful. God will help me. I will trek." The old man's eyes filled with tears. "People pass me every day," he whispered. "But you stopped." He lifted his trembling hands toward the sky like he was speaking to a god he had almost stopped believing in. "Your kindness will open a door you never imagined," he declared. "Your feet are blessed. You will not go in vain." Amara bowed politely, respect shining in her eyes. "Thank you, Papa." Then she turned and started trekking under the rising heat of the sun. Sweating, tired, but peaceful. Because somehow, even without transport money, she felt richer than she had felt in a long time. By the time Amara got to the mansion, her body felt like it had been cooked under fire. The sun was fully awake now, and it sat in the sky like it had chosen her personally for punishment. Sweat rolled down her neck and soaked the collar of her gown. Her chest rose and fell as she tried to catch her breath, but the heat didn't care. It clung to her skin stubbornly, like hunger, like poverty, like life's problems that never left quietly. Her slippers were dusty. Her feet were tired. And even though she tried to wipe her face, her cheeks still looked shiny with sweat and stress. But she didn't stop. Because she had promised her mother. Because she had only one chance. When she finally reached the gate, she paused and stared up at it. Tall, golden, and intimidating, like it was guarding a whole different world. Behind those walls, the air probably smelled like perfume and comfort. The floors were probably cold and shiny. People probably didn't worry about rent or hospital bills. People probably didn't count coins before buying medicine. Amara swallowed hard. Her heart raced so loudly she could almost hear it. She adjusted the brown envelope in her hand and whispered a short prayer. "God, please let them choose me." Then she knocked softly. A few seconds later the door opened. And Amara's hope met a face that had no kindness. A woman stood there, beautiful, polished, and proud. Her hair was perfect. Her nails were shiny. Her skin looked smooth like she had never suffered stress a day in her life. She wore a silk robe and looked as though she had just stepped out of a movie scene. But her eyes were cold. They were the type of eyes that looked at poor people and felt offended that they existed. "Yes?" she asked, irritated, like Amara was disturbing her peace. Amara forced a polite smile. "Good morning, Ma," she greeted respectfully, bowing slightly. "I'm Amara. I came for the house help interview." The woman's brows pulled together immediately, as if the word interview tasted bitter in her mouth. "Interview?" she repeated like it was an insult. "You?" Amara nodded quickly, still smiling even though her chest was tightening. "Yes, Ma. I came." The woman cut her off without mercy. "You're late." Amara's throat tightened. She felt her confidence stumble. "Ma, I'm sorry. There was traffic." The woman snapped sharply. "Excuse. I don't care." Amara opened her mouth again, desperate to explain, but the woman didn't even allow her a chance to breathe. "Look at you," she continued, her voice full of disgust. "Sweaty. Ugly. Low. Weak." Each word landed on Amara like a slap, even though no hand touched her. Amara's eyes burned. She swallowed hard, forcing the tears back down her throat. She couldn't afford to cry. Not here. Not in front of someone who would enjoy it. "Please, Ma," she said softly, her voice shaking. "I really need this job." The woman stepped closer, and her perfume hit Amara's nose, expensive and sharp. Need, the woman repeated, scoffing. Everybody needs. You think you're special. Amara's hands tightened around her envelope. She wanted to speak again. She wanted to say she was not lazy. She wanted to say she had trekked under the hot sun because she gave her last transport money to an old man who needed help. But she didn't. Because she knew people like this woman didn't care about stories. They only cared about appearances. Then the woman looked Amara up and down like she was inspecting something dirty on her floor. Her lips curled. You even look like a husband snatcher, she hissed. I don't want you near my man. Amara froze. For a second, she didn't understand what she had heard. Husband snatcher, she repeated quietly. Her eyes widened in disbelief. Ma, I'm not like that, she pleaded. I only came to work. I'm not here for anybody's man. The woman laughed, dry and cruel. Work, she mocked. Get out. She pushed the door forward and stepped out like she was chasing away a stray animal. Her voice rose so the security man nearby could hear, and so the whole compound could witness Amara's disgrace. Leave before I call someone to drag you out. Amara stumbled back, shocked, humiliated, and breathless. She wanted to defend herself, but her voice disappeared. She wanted to shout, but shame held her tongue. So she turned and began walking away slowly. Her legs felt heavy like they were carrying stones. The brown envelope in her hand suddenly felt useless, like a paper bag holding broken dreams. The same envelope she had held with confidence in the morning now felt like proof that she had failed. She kept walking, fighting tears, trying not to let anyone see how much the rejection hurt. But before she reached the road, a car drove into the compound. Clean, expensive car. It stopped and a man stepped out, tall, mature, calm, and well-dressed. His presence carried authority, but his face looked serious, like someone who didn't enjoy drama. He saw Amara walking out with her head low. His eyes followed her for a moment. Then he turned to the woman at the door. Who's that? He asked. The woman rolled her eyes as if Amara didn't deserve to be called a human being. Some poor girl, she replied carelessly. She came late. I chased her out. The man frowned. That wasn't nice, he said quietly but firmly. We needed help. The woman shrugged, annoyed. I don't want dirty girls near you. Amara heard those words and her heart sank deeper. She didn't wait to hear more. She walked away quickly, tears rising again. She had been rejected without mercy. And now she still had to go home and face her sick mother, with empty hands. Amara walked and walked until her tears blurred the road. The world around her kept moving like nothing had happened. Cars honking, people rushing, sellers shouting prices like life was normal. But inside her, everything felt quiet and broken, like someone had turned off the light in her chest. Her feet hurt with every step. Her stomach rumbled in painful waves. And her heart felt like it had been crushed and stepped on, then handed back to her like it was nothing. She tried to wipe her tears with the back of her hand, but they kept coming, stubborn and hot. The kind of tears that didn't even ask for permission. It wasn't only about the job. It was about the way the woman had looked at her, like she was dirt. The way she had spoken to her, like she was worthless. The way she had accused her like she was a threat simply because she existed. Amara kept walking, head down, as if the road could swallow her shame. She didn't know how she would face her mother. She didn't know what she would tell her. She didn't know how to say, Mama, I tried, but they didn't even allow me to breathe. And just when she thought she couldn't take another step, she saw him again, the old beggar, under the same tree. As if the world had circled her right back to where her kindness had first been tested. He sat in the same spot, his body still thin, his clothes still worn, his hands still trembling lightly like dry leaves in the wind. The morning had turned to midday now, and the sun was harsher, but he remained there like a quiet witness to suffering. Amara's legs slowed. Her heart tightened. He lifted his head slowly, and his tired eyes met hers. My child, he said gently, like his voice carried peace. You returned so soon. How did the interview go? Amara tried to smile. She wanted to pretend she was fine. But her lips trembled, and the smile broke like glass. Her voice cracked, dragging tears along with it. Papa, they chased me out. The old man stared at her for a moment, then shook his head slowly, as if he already knew this outcome before it even happened. My child, he said softly. Some doors close because they were never your doors. Amara sniffed, trying to stop crying like a grown woman, but the tears refused to listen. But I needed it, she whispered. My mother is sick, and we owe rent. I really needed that job. The old man's face softened, and he reached out gently. His hand touched her fingers, light, respectful, almost fatherly. Your heart is clean, he said. And heaven does not ignore kindness. Amara looked down at their hands, shocked by how warm his touch felt, like a reminder that comfort still existed in the world. She raised her eyes to his again and saw something strange in his expression. Confidence. Not the confidence of pride, but the confidence of someone who had seen beyond tomorrow. You will get a better one, the old man continued calmly. And the people who looked down on you will witness your lifting. Amara stared at him like he had spoken another language. Her lips parted slightly. How can you be so sure, Papa? She asked. Life doesn't favor people like me. I work hard, but nothing changes. The old man smiled gently, and even though his teeth were not perfect, his smile looked pure. Not hope, my child, he said. Believe. Those two words dropped into her spirit like medicine. Not the type of medicine you drink. The type of medicine that heals the heart. Amara swallowed hard. She didn't even know why she wanted to believe him. But something inside her chose to hold on to his words like a rope in deep water. She nodded slowly. Thank you, Papa, she whispered, bowing slightly with respect. The old man watched her as she began to walk again, and he called after her gently. Go home, my daughter. Wipe your tears. The world will still hear your name. Amara didn't reply, but she felt something shift in her chest. She still had no job. She still had no money. But she no longer felt completely empty. She walked home with a little strength returning to her bones, like the old man's words had added weight to her spine. When she reached their one-room apartment, the sun was beginning to fall. The sky looked tired and orange, like it too had been struggling all day. She pushed the wooden door open quietly. Her mother was lying on the bed, weak, her eyes half open. The moment she saw Amara, she tried to sit up. My daughter. You are back early, her mother said, voice soft. How did it go? Amara dropped her brown envelope on the table. The sound was small, but it carried the weight of her disappointment. She sat beside her mother and took a deep breath. Mama, she whispered. I didn't get the job. Her mother's face fell instantly. Her eyes widened, and pain flashed across her expression like a sudden storm. Oh, my daughter. Amara held her mother's hands tightly, squeezing them like she could transfer courage through her palms. Mama, I won't stop trying, she promised. God will provide. I will keep going. I will not give up. Her mother's eyes filled with tears. She looked at Amara like she wanted to apologize for being sick, for being the reason Amara had to suffer like this. Her lips trembled. My child, she whispered, crying quietly. May your kindness never be wasted. Amara leaned forward and rested her forehead on her mother's hands. She closed her eyes, letting the tears fall freely now. Because in that tiny room there was no shame. Only love. Only struggle. Only faith holding them together. And deep inside her heart, Amara remembered the old man's voice again. Not hope. Believe. So she whispered into the night. God. I believe. 2 days later, Amara was still searching for work. Not because she wanted to suffer but because she had no choice. The landlord's warning still rang in her ears. Her mother's cough still echoed through the night. And every time Amara looked at the small plastic bag where their remaining medicines sat, she felt fear crawl up her spine. So she kept walking. Street to street, house to house, gate to gate. The sun rose and climbed higher, following her like a shadow that refused to leave. Dust clung to her slippers. Her throat was dry, and her stomach, empty, twisted in quiet pain. She would stand at gates with her shoulders pulled back, trying to look confident, and introduce herself politely. "Good afternoon, Ma. Please, do you need a house help? Can work. I'm honest." But people didn't care to hear about honesty. Some didn't even let her finish speaking. "Go away. No vacancies. Come back next month." One woman hissed at her as if she was a fly. Another slammed the gate without even looking at her face. A man in one compound laughed and said, "Is this the kind of work your father trained you for?" Amara swallowed every insult like bitter water. Because she didn't have time for pride. She needed food for her mother. She needed rent. She needed hope. Her legs hurt. But she refused to give up. Even when she felt like collapsing on the pavement, she kept moving, one foot after the other, whispering small prayers under her breath. "God, please remember me. Please don't let my mother suffer. Please." The afternoon breeze blew lightly, but it did not cool her pain. Her body felt heavy, and disappointment sat on her shoulders like a sack of stones. Then as she turned near a kiosk, she stopped suddenly. Her eyes widened. There he was again, the old beggar, sitting calmly on a stone by the roadside like he had been waiting for her. Amara's tired face softened immediately, and she rushed toward him. "Papa," she called, surprised and relieved. "It's you again." The old man lifted his head slowly and smiled softly, as if seeing her always brought him comfort. "My child," he greeted gently. Amara sat beside him quickly, concern filling her eyes. "Papa, where do you stay?" she asked. "Have you eaten today?" The old man's smile faded slightly, and he shook his head like the question itself was a painful truth. "I sleep behind that shop at night," he said quietly. "The owner allows me to stay there when they close." Amara's heart broke all over again. Behind a shop. On the floor. She stared at him like she wanted to cry. "Oh no, Papa," she whispered. "You shouldn't be living like that. Please let me help you." The old man tried to shake his head, but Amara was already standing up. "Papa, I'm going home to bring you food," she said firmly. "Please wait for me here, okay?" He reached out and gently touched her wrist, stopping her. "My daughter," he said softly. "Give me your phone number." Amara blinked in confusion. "Papa, I'll be back soon," she insisted. "I can give it to you when I return." But the old man shook his head slowly. "No," he said, calm but serious. "Give it to me now." There was something about the way he spoke, like he wasn't being difficult, like he was trying to protect something. Amara hesitated for half a second, then quickly opened her small bag. She brought out a folded paper and a pen. Her handwriting was neat but small. She wrote her phone number carefully and handed it to him. The old man smiled warmly. "You think ahead," he said softly. "Good child." Amara nodded and pointed at him playfully. "Papa, don't go anywhere. I'll be right back." Then she ran home quickly. Her legs moved faster than they had moved all day. She packed rice into a small container, added stew, and poured water into a small bottle. As she ran back, she smiled a little, thinking, "At least I can do one good thing today." But when she returned, the stone was empty. The old man was gone. Amara froze. Her heart started beating fast, almost panicking. She looked around, confused. "Papa," she called softly. "Papa James." No answer. She rushed to the woman selling vegetables nearby, her voice trembling. "Mama, please. Did you see the old man sitting here?" The woman nodded immediately. "Yes, my dear," she replied. "A big car came a few minutes after you left. Luxury car." The people inside looked important. They picked him up and drove away. Amara stood still like her entire brain paused. A luxury car. For Papa. Her stomach tightened. Questions flooded her mind. Who was he? Why would an old beggar be picked up like that? Was he in trouble? Was someone hurting him? That night, Amara couldn't sleep. She lay beside her mother, listening to her breathing, staring at the ceiling, wondering why her heart was restless. Her mother turned slightly and whispered, "Amara, you're not sleeping." Amara forced a small smile. "Mama, I'm fine." But she wasn't fine. She felt like something was shifting in the air around her life, something she couldn't explain. The next day, Amara entered a pharmacy to buy her mother's drugs. She counted her money carefully, selecting only what she could afford. After paying, she stepped outside with a small nylon bag pressed to her chest. And that was when she heard a man talking on the phone near a parked car. "I need someone urgently," he said, voice tired. "A caregiver for my father. I travel soon." Amara turned sharply. Her breath caught. It was him. The same man from the mansion gate. Damien. He looked stressed, like the weight of the world sat on his shoulders. Amara's heart began to beat fast. This was her chance. Her miracle could be standing right in front of her. She stepped forward carefully, her voice gentle. "Sir, excuse me." Damien turned and looked at her. His eyes narrowed slightly, as if he was searching his memory. "You look familiar," he said slowly. Amara nodded quickly, nervous. "Yes, sir," she replied. "I came for the interview, but your fiancé chased me away." Damien's face darkened for a second. "She did." Amara swallowed, trying to remain calm. I can do the job," she said softly. "I can take care of elderly people. I care for my sick mother every day. I know how to give medicine, help them eat, and keep them safe." Damien stared at her, her tired face, her clean eyes, her humble voice. He looked like a man who had been praying quietly and suddenly found an answer. Then he said something that felt like rain after drought. "Can you start tomorrow?" Amara's eyes widened. Her mouth opened slightly. She almost cried right there. "Yes, sir. Yes," she answered quickly. Damien nodded firmly. "Give me your address," he said. "My driver will pick you." Amara smiled like her soul had been rescued. And for the first time in days, hope didn't feel like a dream. Felt real. The next morning, Amara arrived at Damien's mansion early. Clean gown, neat hair, calm face. She had woken up before dawn, not because she couldn't sleep, but because her heart wouldn't let her rest. It beat like a drum inside her chest, loud enough to drown her thoughts. This job wasn't just about money anymore. It was about survival. It was about her mother's life. It was about proving, at least to herself, that she wasn't useless like the world had been trying to convince her. She stood at the gate again, the same golden gate that had rejected her days earlier. The memory of shame tried to rise in her mind, but she pushed it down. Not today, she told herself. Not again. She adjusted her brown envelope even though she didn't need it anymore, took a deep breath and knocked. Almost immediately the door opened. And the same cruel woman appeared. Mabel. Her eyes widened as if she had seen a ghost. "You again," she screamed, her voice sharp like broken glass. "What are you doing here?" Amara bowed politely, her voice calm even though her stomach tightened. "Good morning, Ma," she said. "Sir Damien employed me." Mabel's face twisted like the words offended her deeply. "Lie," she snapped. "You think you can just walk into my house again and start forming confidence?" Amara opened her mouth to explain, but before she could speak further, footsteps sounded from the corridor. Damien walked into the living room at that moment. He looked serious, clean, and well put together. His presence alone changed the air in the room. He glanced at Mabel, then at Amara, then back again. "Mabel," he said firmly. "Enough. She is hired." Mabel gasped as if he had slapped her. "What?" she shouted. "Damien, why would you hire her?" Damien didn't raise his voice, but his tone was hard like stone. "Because she's qualified and we need help," he replied. "I don't have time for drama. My father needs care." Mabel's lips trembled with anger. "You're choosing her over me," she snapped. Damien sighed, clearly tired. "I'm choosing what this house needs." Amara stood quietly, her hands folded in front of her. She didn't smile and she didn't talk back. She simply kept her head down like someone who had learned that humility was sometimes the best defense. But inside her, her heart was shaking, because she could feel Mabel's hatred. It wasn't ordinary dislike. It was the kind of hatred that could plan trouble in silence. Damien turned to Amara gently. "Come. Let me show you your duties." Amara nodded. "Yes, sir." As she walked inside, she could feel Mabel's eyes burning into her back like heat under skin. Then Damien led her down a hallway, past expensive artwork, shiny floors, and the soft smell of air freshener that made the whole house feel like comfort. Amara tried not to look too amazed. She didn't want to appear like a village girl seeing wealth for the first time. But it was hard. Everything here looked like peace. Everything looked like money. Everything looked like a life she had only watched from a distance. Damien stopped at a door. "This is my father's room," he said softly. "His name is Chief Obinna." Amara's heart skipped. Chief Obinna. The door opened. And the moment Amara entered the room, her breath stopped. Her entire body went still. Sitting on the bed was the old beggar, the same shaking man from the roadside. But now clean sheets covered the bed. Luxury furniture stood neatly arranged. Private nurse Belle sat close by. The air inside smelled calm and expensive. Amara's eyes widened. "Papa," she whispered before she could stop herself. Damien looked at her. "You know him." Amara's lips trembled. "Sure. I met him on the road." Damien sighed slowly, pain flickering in his eyes. "My father wanders sometimes. His memory has not been stable for a while." Amara's heart squeezed so tightly it almost hurt. So that was it. The shaking hands, the confused eyes, the worn clothes, the lonely tree. And suddenly everything from that day returned like a flash. How she had given him her last transport money, how he had tried to refuse it, how he had blessed her like a prophet. Damien spoke gently. "Papa, this is Amara. She will be helping you." Chief Obinna stared at Amara blankly. His face held no recognition, no memory, nothing. Then he only whispered, softly like a child, "I'm hungry." Amara's eyes filled with tears instantly. He didn't remember her. But she remembered him. She remembered the way his voice sounded when he said, "Your feet are blessed." Amara quickly nodded, forcing a smile. "Okay, Papa. I will bring food." She went to the kitchen and began working immediately. And as she settled into the job, strange things began to happen. The mansion felt cold at night. Not just normal cold. The kind of cold that entered the bones. Sometimes Amara would walk past a hallway and suddenly feel goosebumps rise on her skin like someone unseen had passed by her. And Mabel began secretly receiving visitors. Amara didn't see their faces clearly, but she heard murmured conversations, quick footsteps, and the sound of whispering behind closed doors. Chief Obinna also began talking in his sleep. It started as soft murmuring, but one night Amara heard it clearly while adjusting his blanket. "Heaven," he whispered. "Judgment. Debt. Betrayal." Amara stepped back, shocked. What kind of words were those? Was Chief Obinna dreaming? Or was something deeper hiding behind his memory loss? Before Amara could even understand it all, her own life shook again. Her mother collapsed suddenly and needed urgent surgery. Amara cried in the hospital, shaking like her world was ending. The bill was impossible. She held her head and whispered through tears, "God, please don't take my mother." Then the doctor returned with a strange smile. "An anonymous person paid everything," he announced. "All of it." Amara froze. "What?" she whispered. Her legs gave way. She fell to her knees right there and wept, not from pain but from pure gratitude. Later that evening, she returned to the mansion still trembling with relief. Chief Obinna held her hand suddenly, his eyes clearer than before. And for the first time his voice sounded strong. "Your kindness," he whispered clearly, "has returned to you." Amara's throat tightened. Not long after, Mabel framed Amara as a thief. She tried to disgrace her in the house, shouting and twisting the story like a snake. But Chief Obinna stood before everyone and declared, "This girl is the reason I am alive today." Damien finally saw it all. The lies, the betrayal, the wickedness, and he ended the engagement. Mabel's world shattered in one moment. And when Damien turned to Amara, his voice broke with emotion. "You didn't just help my father. You saved my home." He held her hands gently. "Amara, will you marry me?" Amara cried like a child. Her mother recovered. Chief Obinna's memory returned. And the girl who once trekked with empty pockets finally stepped into her destiny. Because the truth was simple. The day she gave her last transport money was the day her destiny changed forever. If you watched this story to this end, please give this video a like. Let us know where you're watching from in the comments, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss our next story. Until our next story,